Alright, it's your boy. The Kingdom is back with another video. Today's going to be a very special video for me because we are making how to build a mono rock team in the SV Monotype metagame. Now, rock is one of my favorite typings to use. I've always advocated for rock's usage and the fact that it was never really the worst type in the generation so far. Electric has always been worse than rock at pretty much every point in the metagame. And especially when we got Ogopon, Cornerstone, and that rock just elevated itself to new heights. And I was just like, yeah, this type is him. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. But either way, yeah, I'm gonna be making the mono rock tutorial video, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy that. If you guys do enjoy that, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Join the Kingdom on our way to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Now, mono rock is in a pretty funny spot. And yeah, there's just going to be a few steps for you to follow, and I'll go in depth with all the mods that you need and stuff. But the first step before you even want to consider building a mono rock team, even though you're probably thinking in your head, I need a Tyranitar, I need an Ogopon, Cornerstone, and all that good stuff. We're going to filter the types here, as you can see, by rock. And I want you guys to scroll all the way down to ZU here, like pretty much all of these guys. Now the first step is, do not use any of these guys. That's the first step. Don't even consider looking below PU for finding any rock type to use on your team. Because unfortunately, as much as I like Rampardos as a Pokemon, it's not a good one. Especially the fact that they got rid of Rock Polish for it for some reason. So this mon basically has no use anymore. And yeah, just the rest of you guys are just pretty much outclassed. If you want actual bulky Pokemon, you're not using Rhydon, you have Rhyperior, pretty much Garganacl. You're not using Lycanroc Midnight when, you know, the other Lycanroc has, you know, Sandrush, which pairs well with Tyranitar. And just pretty much any use case for any of these EU guys, you can just think of a higher level Pokemon for that. And the fact is, I say this multiple times, that usage and monotype aren't, you know, one-to-one correlated yet. But for Rock's case, these mons in GU just have no use for the team at hand. So, you know, just don't use them. The only one I could say could have some use are like the Golem guys, just because you have Sturdy for the Kanto one, and the Alolan one has Magnet Pool if you want to trap like Skarmory or Corviknight, which is a pretty good niche for Rock to have, considering the fact that Steel is probably one of the most annoying matchups of all time. And yeah, getting rid of Corviknight or Skarm, so even on flying as well, would be a pretty nice niche to have. But either way, you have Hisui Arcanine or Colossal if you want to take down the Steel flying types. But yeah, that is it for the first step. Now the second step is, you know, you have to add the big three. Now the big three is not Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. The big three is Ogopon, Cornerstone, Iron Boulder, and Tyranitar. These are the big three. Now I'm going to add them onto the team here. Yeah, this is the only big three you guys need to worry about. So Iron Boulder and Tyranitar here. Now, before DLC 1, obviously we didn't have Ogopon, Cornerstone, so, you know, pretty much, and Iron Boulder before the DLCs in general. So there was no big three for Rock. You could pretty much just build anywhere you want, but it wasn't as consistent as we have it now. Now, why is Ogopon, Cornerstone part of the big three? Well, you look at his typing, Rock Grass. Now, pairing Rock and Grass, even though they have the most weaknesses out of any individual type, pairing them together actually makes Rock pretty good, because you get rid of its ground weakness, you get rid of its water weakness, and you also get rid of its wait, do you get rid of any other weaknesses? No, I think the most important ones are obviously water and ground. So yeah, so that means you actually have an EQ switch, and even though Ogopon's not the bulkiest Pokemon, at least your team is not getting 6-0'd by EQ. And obviously you have Grass Stab offensively in order to hit these the ground and water types super effectively. That would be many a time where I face mono ground, which seems like a doom matchup, but you just need one SD properly on the Ogopon, and you start Oko and everything on ground, and it's a pretty fun thing. Now, the also really good ability of Ogopon Cornerstone is Sturdy, which means that it's never dying in one hit, assuming you can keep hazards off, which isn't necessarily too hard with the hazard removal options that you have on the typing. Well, there's only two, but it's still a consistent way of getting rid of hazards. Now, the typical Ogopon Cornerstone moveset is it only has one set. Like, it can't really run anything else because of its item, so you know, it can't run Band or Scarf, for example, but obviously it has a pretty good item that boosts its damage output by 20%. Now, the typical moveset is literally just Ivy, Cudgel, Horn Leech, and Superpower. As much as some people would like to run Power Whip for more power or Trailblaze, Horn Leech is the most consistent grass option you have. The reason being the fact that you heal, and if you're able able to heal back into sturdy range. That obviously means that you're never getting OHKO'd by anything, so you can always try and outplay, you know, steel type coming in like our Chaladon. If you're at +2, you know, superpowers killing our Chaladon and killing pretty much every other steel type that, you know, doesn't, you know, is not weak to fighting, for example. And even if you face Skarmory and Corviknight, you're just gonna Ivy Cudgel them instead, and, you know, potential high crit rate, and you know, they're just gonna die afterwards. So yeah, this is the typical Ogerpon Cornerstone moveset on Mono Rock. Like I said, Trailblaze is a possibility over Hornleech. Obviously you need Ivy Cudgel and Superpower. I don't think you ever really want to drop those. But the thing is about this Ogerpon Cornerstone is that, like, on odds on this typing, like, you're not really running any of these utility options like U-turn or Taunt or Encore, for example. You kind of just want to run like these moves and it works out most effectively. Now Iron Boulder, I'll say the second best mon on the type, because Rock was lacking that super duper fast mon that pretty majority of the types got this generation. For example, like Meowscarada 123 speed for 2 typings, Fluttermane at 135 base speed, Shenpao before it was banned 135 base speed, and, you know, Rock was just lacking that like fast mon. You know, Aerodactyl isn't in the tier anymore because it got nuked from SV, and yeah, Rock was lacking that fast mon for quite a while. But now you have a mon that has 124 base speed, which allows you to outspeed Roaring Moon, Meowscarada, Iron Valiant. I needed to cough there. But yeah, you have this really super fast mon, and Iron Boulder is pretty much delegated to Scarfer because, you know, there's a lot of fast mons that can take advantage of Rock. Like I said, Meowscarada, Iron Valiant, you know, being pretty good examples. Even Roaring Moon just locking itself into Iron Head from Mono Dragon teams, and like, you're in some big trouble. Now, being able to outspeed those means Rock can be a lot more threatening offensively, when, you know, defensively you can't really afford to be as consistent as it was once was in previous generations, because you lost like defensive pieces like Cradily, which, you know, was a pretty solid water immunity and ground neutrality, which you just lack. So like, a lot of Rock now, like, most of these guys are just weak to ground, and there isn't really any counterplay to that outside of you know, Ogerpon Cornerstone and running Air Balloon, for example. So yeah, typically Choice Scarf runs its signature move, Mighty Cleave, Earthquake. Obviously the Edgequake combination comes back again. You have Close Combat, and then you just have Zen Headbutt. It doesn't get any other utility options. In move pool is pretty barren, but obviously all of your attacks hit everything in the tier for, you know, at least neutral damage, and your stab move is pretty strong, gets past Protect, 95 base power. You never have to worry about missing, so that's why these guys are good. You know, having Rock stab that doesn't miss, you know, and even having some secondary effects, well, secondary effects in the way that, you know, they have like bonus features to them, like high crit rate and you know, being able to break past Protect, which can come into clutch sometimes, especially against Pokemon like Gliscor, which like to, you know, spam Protect. Like, if it's low and you're facing flying, well, you know, Rock is super effective against flying, so unless they have like their Corviknight or Skarmory, like, they pretty much cannot recover in front of Iron Boulder if they're low HP, which is pretty good. Now the third member of the big three, probably the least important one, but still a pretty pivotal part of the type, is Tyranitar. Now, it's obvious Tyranitar has been one of the best Rock types ever for, you know, generations now. It came out in Gen 2 and still pretty much hasn't really been power crept that badly. Now, Tyranitar is pretty much the most versatile Pokemon out of the big three, because it's not locked into being a Choice Scarf or not locked to just running SD sets. Tyranitar is pretty versatile in what it can do. It can run like specially defensive leftovers with Rock support, with T-Wave, Knockoff. Knockoff was a pretty good move that I got this gen. Pretty consistent Dark Stab. Like, you actually feel like you can run Dark Stab on Tyranitar now, especially due to the fact that Knockoff is one of the most broken moves in the game, and, you know, is better than Crunch, stronger than Crunch, and better than Crunch, because you can obviously get rid of items, and there's a lot of boot spam going around, so, you know, having Knockoff to get rid of heavy duty boots is a pretty good feature to have. You have T-Wave support, and it's generally just bulky and supports the team. Like, setting up Sandstorm for all of your teammates to have a +1 Spadef boost is pretty solid. It can also run Assault Vest, because Tyranitar's move pool is pretty solid, and you can delegate Rocks to some other defensive piece that you wish to run, whether that's Diancie, Garganacl, Rhyperior, for example. So yeah, typical Assault Vest, you know, you have Stone Edge, Knockoff, Earthquake. Earthquake could be Heavy Slam, you might not need it, or Heavy Slam could be here, or you can run Ice Punch to bait in Gliscor or Landorus. Potentially Ice Beam, it depends on if you want to run Sassy Nature or, you know, Sassy Nature or Careful Nature, doesn't really matter, but I think Ice Beam obviously is gonna hit Landorus T a lot harder and Gliscor a lot harder, because, you know, they're typically more physically defensive Pokemon. Not to say Gliscor can't run Spadef, which it does, but obviously Ice Beam has a higher base power than, you know, Ice Punch, you know, and Tyranitar still has a pretty respectable special attack stat. So yeah, so this is the big three. You pretty much want these guys on all of your teams. Next up, I would say the big four, but honestly, Glimmora is not as necessary as the big three in my opinion. Now, this is typically your fourth member of the team because of the fact that, you know, it has a rock poison typing. Grass is not relevant too much as a type, but, you know, Meowscarada is a common Pokemon on Mono Dark, so having another Pokemon that is neutral to grass is never really that bad to have, especially when it's a poison type and it's able to set up hazards for you. Especially it has spikes. You don't even need to run toxic spikes because toxic debris, you know, ability that if you're hit by a physical attack, you set toxic spikes on the field. So Glimmora has space to run Earth Power, it has space to run Sludge Wave or Energy Ball. It does experience somewhat for full move slot syndrome in terms of what moves it wants to run as attacks, because you, like, sometimes you feel like you want to run Power Gem because having a special attack in rock type, you know, being able to hit flying types, because unfortunately Skarmory can pretty much just handle these two pretty easily, but Ogerpon can obviously just set up, but you fear Body Press obviously, and Iron Boulder just isn't hurting Skarm in the slightest, I'll be honest. And yeah, being able to run Rock Stab to hit Skarm to a kill with Power Gem is pretty useful. And yeah, you don't even have to run Sludge Wave because this is one of two removal options for the typing. So that poison move can be Mortal Spin, getting rid of webs, getting rid of spikes. Supports Ogerpon Cornerstone because you kind of want that sturdy intact as much as possible, so it can tank any attack and just retaliate back pretty strongly. Typically Air Balloon or Focus Sash if you want to run like a more HO oriented team. You know, Air Balloon prevents it from being hit by its times full weakness, of course, and yeah, so this is typically the move. But to be fair, you don't even need to run Energy Ball anymore now that I think about, because you have your own grass type now to carry that grass type coverage for the team. So yeah, being able to run Power Gem, pretty much max HP, I said max HP, max special attack, max speed with Timid Nature, and you know your Glimmora is actually hitting pretty hard. There's also another set that I've tried running, which is Rock Polish, Meteor Beam, with Earth Power and Sludge Wave. Hits pretty hard, and you know, if you're able to get off a Rock Polish, you pretty much outspeed the entire tier, and you know, get off a Meteor Beam, and yeah, this thing hits very hard with 130 special attack. So that's a less common set that I've been able to run on Glimmora, but you're pretty much fine going Mortal Spin and the other set. Now these last two slots are what I like to call the flex pick, you know. These two slots don't matter as often, but it can pretty much be anything that you want it to be fair. Like I said, Garganacl is a pretty solid Wincon. Isn't as necessary as I feel it could be, because you can have Tyranitar doing that bulky rock set, but don't sleep on Garganacl. This one is still very annoying because it has Purifying Soul, which means it can't be statused. It has Salt Cure, which is one of the most annoying moves in the game. Reliable Recovery, and it can also just run Iron Defense, Body Press, and you know, this is its bread and butter. There isn't much else you're going to be doing for this guy, and you can actually just afford to go max HP, max defense, because Tyranitar is basically going to be covering the special side of things, and when you have a massive defense stat like this, you might as well just fully invest in it. And it's not even like its special defense stat is low either. Like 90 of a Sandstorm boost is pretty solid, even with no investment when you take into effect 100 base HP. So Garganacl can be one of your two slots. Your last slot on a team like this would have to be Hisuian Arcanine. And to be honest, this is going to be your fifth slot realistically. So like I said, two flex picks, but Hisuian Arcanine is pretty much that chosen like first flex pick in the first place, because that fire typing is pretty useful for steel, is useful for grass, and is useful for well, it does fire hit super effectively. Bug doesn't really matter, but you know, fire is pretty strong offensively, and you pretty much target steel and yeah, it's pretty strong for that. Now typically it was running choice band in the past, but now you can afford to run heavy duty boots. Doesn't really need to hit that hard. Like, you have a really strong rock stabbing head smash, and flare blitz are two really hard hitting stabs. You can run substitute morning sun, and you're probably thinking morning sun is like detrimental with sand, isn't it? But sand isn't going to be up forever, is it? So you're able to just run these two moves. If you do want to run the tried and traditional choice band set, you just run extreme speed and close combat here, and yeah, this one's hitting really hard. So yeah, that's typically your 5th member, the first flex pick. And then this one could be Garganackle, this one could be Diancie, for example. Now I'm gonna rep Diancie a bit because Dragon is pretty relevant, and you know, having a fairy typing is pretty useful for that, and fairy typing is also useful for the fighting matchup, which, you know, Rock kind of dreads to face. But the combination of Iron Boulder, Choice Scarf with Stabs and Headbutt outspeeding Choice Scarf Sneasler, in addition to Diancie's massive physical bulk, means that fighting kind of has a more difficult time, because you could just run a Diamond Storm, Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, and Body Press set here, and like Diancie is far from being a passive Pokemon. It's very bulky. So you might even want to run Spadef, but most of the time you're just going to run this because you kind of want to be tanking, you know, the heavy slams potentially from Zamazenta, or, you know, the drain punches from Iron Hands, or earthquakes from Great Tusk. Like, you can stay in on Great Tusk, Drain Kiss, and you'll get back all of your HP. Like, it's insane, you know. Like, I can't lie. The last flex pick, I would say, or not even last pick, you still have mons like Rhyperior, which are pretty bulky. Its ability Solid Rock means it can actually 1v1 fighting types, which is the most hilarious thing. Either you just run counter, you take like a close combat, you survive, and you Oko them back. It could be your secondary rocker, like I said. You know, being able to run rocks inside Tyranitar, especially if you got an Assault Vest set, is also pretty solid. And you can start hazard stacking with the additional Glamora's spikes as well if you decide to run spikes Mortal Spin set. Now yeah, Rhyperior is a pretty solid Pokemon. Not one you're running too often, but like, it's a pretty funny Pokemon for the fighting matchup. Can also run SD sets, which is pretty respectable as well, because it can beat flying on a 1v1 as well, has Ice Punch to hit Lando and Gliscor, and you're not really caring too much about them, especially if they're not invested, because Solid Rock really just stops you from taking a lot of damage from moves that you're weak to. You're not taking grass or water moves, let's just get that, you know, sorted out. You're not taking water or grass moves, but ground and fighting moves and steel moves, you're taking them quite comfortably, as long as they're on the physical side, of course. The next flex pick I have to mention is Minior, and I've been liking Minior a lot recently, I can't lie. My most recent Rock team has included a Minior, which is running a special Shell Smash set with Power Gem, Earth Power, and Dazzling Gleam here, I think. I was running Psychic, but I think Dazzling Gleam is better because obviously Fairy hits Dragon super effectively and Psychic does not. And yeah, Minior's a pretty fun Pokemon, can't lie. When it's in its Meteor form, Shields Down prevents it from being statused, and it has enough bulk relatively because it has 100 in both defensive to set up reliably. Most hits will take it into core form, which is this normal Minior, and then you get 120 base speed at +2, 100 special attack at +2, and you kind of just start to Oko things, you know, like. And yeah, Minior is a pretty solid win con for the typing, other than, you know, Okapon Cornerstone, for example. And then I've been running this less, but obviously you can run Terrakion, you can run normal Lycanroc, and I haven't used this one in a hot sec. You kind of don't need it as a win con anymore, but you know, before DLCs, this was your main speed control option because of the fact that Sand Rush doubles your speed. I was typically running Stone Edge, Drill Run, Accelerock, and Close Combat. I think it runs Play Rough as well. You could drop a Drill Run for Close Combat, might not be necessary, but yeah, Play Rough was pretty useful for hitting fighting type super effectively with Choice Band. And you're able to run Adamant because even with Adamant nature, you pretty much outspeed every single speed control option, including Scarf Fluttermane, Scarf Dragapult, and all of that good stuff. So yeah, I'll show you one of my Rock teams that I've built recently. And where is it? Yeah, this one. So this was a typical Rock team that I built. SD Ogopon with the 4 moves I mentioned. We have Air Balloon, Arcanine, Hisui. I did say Boots was a possibility, but you know, I thought about slapping Air Balloon on pretty much anything that's weak to ground. It's pretty helpful because ground is so good. Yeah, 4 attacks: Extreme Speed, Close Combat, Head Smash, Flare Blitz, just does good damage. Choice Scarf, Iron Boulder with the 4 attacks. Special Shell Smash Minior with Dazzling Gleam to hit Dragon and Fighting types. Glimora with the Air Balloon, like I said, with Spikes and Mortal Spin. And then we have defensive, defensive Tyranitar in a way. This has enough speed to outspeed, you know, base 50s max invested. I don't know why I need 200 speed, but you know, just being faster than Adam and Azumarill. Don't know how useful that is, to be fair, but you know, stop that from setting up before, maybe knock it off. Knock off its citrus, so it's always just going to be low after a belly drum, and yeah, all of that good stuff. But yeah, it's a pretty solid rock team I got here. I was almost at 1600s before I stopped laddering, so you know, rock. I'm the rock expert, the leader of the rock nation, bro. Like, don't get it twisted. But either way, that will be it for the mono rock video. Let me know down below if you guys want to know how to build some other more niche types right now, because I can't lie, grass is bad and electric is even worse, but at least with rock, there's merit to rock. Might make a mono ice video post Chien-Pao ban, because some people just think that type is doomed, but there are some things that you can still run on that type that are pretty useful. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.